Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. An international conference on peace and security in the Middle East began today in Warsaw, attended by official delegations from 60 countries. Although the official name of the conference suggests it is considering the general situation in the Middle East, the main focus is on the threat to regional security posed by Iran. The leaders of the United States and Israel speak quite openly about this. What kind of geopolitical gameplay can Poland make in relation to Iran? More on this from Górniewski and others.
Delegations from around 60 countries have come to Poland for the Conference on Peace and Security in the Middle East. Prominent attendees include, among others, US Vice President Mike Pence, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. The conference has been jointly organized by Poland and the United States and, according to governing Law and Justice Party, represent a Polish diplomatic success.
Every diplomatic initiative which leads to finding a solution to conflict, especially conflict in the Middle East, is worthwhile. It may begin a process of putting an end to conflict there. Opposition politicians have said that the conference in Warsaw has caused a quarrel with Poland and Iran and badly affects our relationships within the European Union.
Chyba żadne państwo nie skonfliktowało się zarówno z Izraelem.
No other countries had a falling out with both Israel and Iran in such a short time as Poland. Thanks to our diplomacy, we have had a quarrel with Israel over the Institute of National Remembrance and now with Iran over the conference.
Na zachowanie Polski.
According to Dr. Łukaszewicz of the Polish Institute of International Affairs, Poland should organise as many such meetings as possible to show that it can co-create global politics. This initiative is important for the Polish-American bilateral relations. The initiative is supposed to show that Poland cares about Middle Eastern matters. It is also important for Polish-Israeli relations. This is going to be the first visit of the Israeli Prime Minister to Poland since a crisis concerning the IPN bill. Also, the initiative is supposed to show that Poland provides positive aspects in international politics. The official communications of Poland and the United States concerning the conference do not mention Iran. However, for the representatives of the United States and Israel, the matter of the threat posed by Iran in the Middle East will be the main topic of discussion in Warsaw.
It's a very important conference. It's a conference that unites the United States, Israel, many countries in the world and many countries in the region, Arab countries, against Iran's aggressive policies. It's aggression. It's the desire to conquer the Middle East and destroy Israel. And what's important is that many countries are uniting against this aggression. I think that's a very important message.
On the one side, we have the majority of democratic countries that appeared in Warsaw. On the other, we have an axis of the authoritarian countries and their allies, for example, Venezuela, Cuba and Nicaragua. These countries supported Venezuela and its dictatorship. Today, in front of the National Stadium, several hundred Iranians took part in a protest against the government in Tehran. The protesters came from various parts of the world. The protest was organized by the Iranian Mujahideen opposition.
I'm living in Montreal, Canada, and I came to Poland to participate in this demonstration to make the leader of the world hear the voice of the Iranian people who wants regime change and democracy after 40 years of religious dictatorship.
The Middle East Conference was scheduled to last 2 days. Tomorrow, the main part will take place in the National Stadium. Among others expected to speak are the Prime Minister, Mateusz Morawiecki, and Vice President Mike Pence. The formal ending of the conference will be the statement of the conclusions given by the United States Secretary of State and the Polish Foreign Minister. The Polish Army is to be equipped with the American High Mobility Artillery Rocket System, or HIMARS for short. Today, at the 1st Military Transport Air Base in Warsaw, a US $414 million contract for the HIMARS system was signed in the presence of the Polish President Andrzej Duda and the United States Vice President Mike Pence.
Pierwszym punktem programu wizyty wiceprezydenta Stanów Zjednoczonych.
The first item on the visit agenda of the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, in Poland was a meeting with Polish and American troops, which took place in the hangar of Okęcie military base. Also right here, Mike Pence met with Polish President Andrzej Duda. Present at the meeting was also the Polish Minister of Defense, Mariusz Błaszczak, who signed the deal for delivery to Poland of the HIMARS rocket systems.
W której do Polski ma trafić system rakietowy HIMARS.
Today, the Polish army is equipped with the most advanced weapons available. Polish army will receive HIMARS rocket systems. This is a modern weaponry used by the most advanced army in the world, the United States Army. These weapons will assure safety and stability. It will increase the fighting capabilities of the Polish army. This is the weapon which will make the eastern flank complete at last.
Armię Stanów Zjednoczonych.
Ogromnie się cieszę.
I am extremely happy that the visit in Poland by the US Vice President with his delegation is starting with this important and symbolic act. The act of signing of the agreement which opens for Poland the purchase of the rocket systems HIMARS, the modern American systems. It will result not only in increasing the defense capability of Poland, not only the fighting potential of the Polish army, but will also increase the security of our part of Europe as its region, and at the same time the eastern flank of NATO territory.
Systemu amerykańskiego.
But I'm here in Poland. Before the week is out, I'll travel to Munich in the coming days to bring a message on behalf of our president to the people of Poland and to freedom-loving people everywhere. And it's simply this: we are with you. We will stand with you, and the United States of America stands with Poland as a part of the most successful mutual defense alliance in the history of the world, and we always will.
Po krótkich okolicznościowych przemówieniach doszło także
After
do
short official speeches, a nice meeting of the vice presidential couple of the United States with American soldiers stationed in Poland took place. Next, Vice President Pence and his wife went to the Belvedere Palace for a private meeting with the Polish President Andrzej Duda and First Lady Agata Kornhauser-Duda.
oraz pierwszą damą Agatą Kornhauser-Dudą.
Following their meeting in the Belvedere Palace in Warsaw, President Andrzej Duda and Vice President Mike Pence held a joint press conference. During the press conference, the President and the Vice President stressed the strength and durability of the Polish-American alliance.
Today, Mr. President, as you stand with us, we'll stand with you and the people of Poland as we seek to build a brighter future in the Middle East and for all freedom-loving people across the world. But today, Mr. President, I'm here just to say thank you. Thank you to you and all the Polish people on behalf of the people of the United States of America. We're allies, yes, but more than that, we're friends. We have an abiding friendship that's grounded in the ideals of freedom and democracy, and it's grounded in generations of heritage. With your leadership in Poland, with the leadership of President Donald Trump in the United States, with the friendship and the unbreakable bond between our two peoples, and with God's help, I know we'll continue to advance the prosperity and security of both of our countries, and together we will forge a brighter future for all of the world.
Mr. Vice President, I hope that the relations between our countries will be even closer this year, especially as we'll be celebrating the centenary of the establishing of diplomatic relations between Poland and the US. Between Poland, which had just risen from the ashes, and the United States, the first leading power in the world to recognize Poland's existence in the year 1919. Woodrow Wilson's declaration was a beautiful gesture towards our country, for which we all remember him today. Once again, I hope this year will be a special year for our countries. I want to thank both you and the Second Lady of the United States for coming to Poland, and I hope it will be a memorable visit for you.
Prosecutors in Warsaw have concluded the hearing of Austrian businessman Gerhard Bergfellner. Bergfellner first came to public attention after Gazeta Wyborcza, a newspaper critical of Poland's Law and Justice Party, published recordings of his meetings with the party leader Jarosław Kaczyński. The main subject of the conversation was the fee of 2.5 million Polish zloty to be paid for preparatory work on a skyscraper that a foundation connected to the ruling party wished to build in Warsaw.
2 weeks ago, after Gazeta Wyborcza published the first recordings of Jarosław Kaczyński's conversations with Gerald Bergfellner, an Austrian businessman, filed a notice to the prosecutor's office and claimed that he had been cheated. Later, in her interview with Polish press agency, Mr. Jarosław Kaczyński commented on the matter.
This gentleman demanded money for work that was not documented. His demand can be summarized to the point that I was supposed to force the supervisory board and the management of the Srebrna company to act against the law and send money in violation of the Accountancy Act, which I did not want and could not do. None of these bodies would meet such demands.
Meanwhile, in the next episode of the series on Kaczyński's tapes, Gazeta Wyborcza published an authorization from the Srebrna company issued to Gerald Bergfellner. According to Wyborcza, an Austrian businessman was given great power even to demolish the old office building standing on the plot where the development was to take place. The Civic Platform Party has appealed to the prosecutor's office to hear Jarosław Kaczyński carefully about the Srebrna company and the tapes revealed by Wyborcza.
Today we renew our request that the prosecutor's office urgently, I stress, urgently question Jarosław Kaczyński because he has the knowledge about the Srebrna company's activities.
The open question is whether recent events will affect support for the ruling party. The current polls do not indicate that they have. The hearing of Gerald Bergfellner will be continued next week.
The leader of the Polish trade union Solidarity, Piotr Duda, has announced that he intends to sue the former president of Poland, Lech Wałęsa, for repeating untrue information about him. Wałęsa published a photo purporting to show Piotr Duda in uniform with a group of uniformed men from ZOMO, the ill-reputed communist motorized reserve of the citizens' militia.
The picture shows a red arrow pointing out Piotr Duda with the inscription Piotr Duda, combatant of the fights for independence. The picture was available on the former president's Facebook account for 24 hours. It attracted many comments and shares. On Monday, the former president Lech Wałęsa received a letter in which the leader of Solidarity threatens legal action and demands an apology in 48 hours. Lech Wałęsa published a correction.
Mr. Piotr Duda, I'm sorry for publishing on my Facebook profile photos showing you of the motorized reserves of the citizens' militia, ZOMO. The photo had a false description, the unit was incorrect. You served in an airborne division. The author of the photo misled me. However, it doesn't change the fact that you were standing with the other side than us, people of Solidarity.
Wałęsa's post was commented on by Piotr Duda.
This is not an apology. Wałęsa doesn't have any honor. I will sue him.
According to the journalist Jakub Jałowiczor, the former president gave untrue information about Piotr Duda because he didn't serve in ZOMO but served in the army during martial law.
Wałęsa claimed that Piotr Duda was a part of ZOMO in 2017. He had to apologize as well, and then he claimed that he confused the units. He's saying the same thing now, but Piotr Duda served in a different unit. We don't have any information where he's been or what he's been doing during martial law, but it's hard to say whether Wałęsa made a mistake or did that on purpose.
The photo has been circulating on the internet for a couple of years. The former president of Poland, Lech Wałęsa, had already apologized for slander of the leader of Solidarity, Piotr Duda, 2 years ago.
That's the news. Thank you for watching. Do stay with us for the weather, business and more from Poland Daily. But from me it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.
Good evening, I'm Paulina Adlerstein and welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Tonight the minimum temperature will be -2 degrees around Rzeszów, also in Lublin and Białystok, Katowice, similar situation with a clear sky as well, and the maximum temperature will be 3 degrees around Szczecin with some rain as well. Central Poland will see -1 degree in both Warsaw and Łódź, and now let's see what will happen tomorrow during the day. So tomorrow the temperatures won't be too low. 7 degrees will be the maximum around Bydgoszcz, Wrocław, also in the west, and Zielona Góra and around Szczecin. Quite a fair amount of rain is expected tomorrow. 5 degrees with rain and sun in Warsaw, 4 degrees in Łódź, and also 4 in Białystok and Lublin, also in Rzeszów. And now let's check the forecast for the upcoming 3 days. So on Friday, 8 degrees will be the maximum in the northwest, 3 degrees in central Poland. On Saturday, warmer, 9 degrees in the northwest with a lot of sun, 8 degrees in the southwest. And on Sunday, 10 degrees will be the maximum in the southwest and 9 degrees in the northwest, 7 degrees in central Poland. This is all for tonight. Thank you and see you soon.
You are watching Poland Daily Business Edition. About a month ago, we've heard from the United States Department of State that in mid-February in Warsaw will be held a Near East conference concerning the issues of peace in that region. Everyone was appalled, surprised, yet we are there. The conference is about to start, and Artur Wróblewski of Lazarski University will shed a little bit of light on the events that lead us to this conference here in Warsaw.
Hello, thank you for the invitation.
Welcome, sir. The announcement was made by United States Department of State, not by Polish Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Is that a fundamental flaw in all that process?
Maybe it's a little flaw, but we should look in a broader way on the potential profits or assets for Poland from this conference. I think that Poland can position itself even better as a mediator, as a country which is always supporting the initiatives which could bring peace and stability in the world. Let's remember that Poland is currently holding the position of non-permanent member of the Security Council at the United Nations, so it's obligation for us to support such initiatives. Of course, the critics, skeptics will be saying that Poland is being used instrumentally by the American diplomacy to support the anti-Iranian position, portfolio. However, let's remind that this conference is very versatile. It will focus on many different issues, and Iran problem is only one of those issues. There are many other issues very important, like, for example, non-proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, terrorism, extremism in the Middle East, or, for example, Palestinian-Israeli problem. So we have much more into this conference than only Iranian nuclear deal dating back to 2015, which has been cancelled by Trump administration.
Among the issues you didn't mention is Russia's involvement in Near East. Russia returned to the Near East in 2016 during the recent months of Obama administration, set up the bases, involved itself in a serious fighting with on the side of President Assad. President Assad apparently will stay in power, at least in Syria, or whatever will emerge from the Syria after the conflict will be ended.
Of course, it will be one of those issues addressed by the conference members. But let's remember that when we talk Russia, we mean Iran, we mean Hezbollah, we mean Syria and President Assad. So Russia is part of this Middle East dilemma. And unfortunately, they are not planning to attend this meeting, but of course it's a very important player in this
area. Do they see this
area.
Meeting as a threat to their interest, as something that may undermine the position that Russia regained in the Near East?
Russia is playing a very important role because it's supporting Iran, it's also supporting Syria. It's holding bases like Khmeimim or Tartus, so it's very important place in Syria for Russia, but also let's remember that Russia is giving support to Iran. So we cannot discuss the peace and stability in the area forgetting about Russia and Iran. However, let's stress again that Iran, Russia, and how to address those issues is only one of the problems. Maybe we will learn something about the peace deal of the century, as it's called by Jared Kushner and Jason Greenblatt and President Trump. Maybe we will learn something about solving this perennial issue of Palestinian refugees and Palestinian-Israeli conflict, which would help stabilize the region. However, when we talk about Russia, when we talk about Iran, we have to remember that we have this nuclear deal in the backdrop. However, Iran seems to violate parts of this agreement, unfortunately, and first of all, Iran did not put on hold the development of its missile program, which is a threat not only to Israel, but it's a threat to anybody else in the area. So we have to take into account this issue that Iran is not an angel, and let's hope this conference will come with a conclusion which will be simply working to the benefit of the whole area.
From the point of view of the United States and the politics in the capital, how would you see this conference? What the United States wants from our President Donald Trump, wants from Near East?
I think that Jared Kushner and Jason Greenblatt, they are special representatives, we could say in this way, of President Trump for this area, are having ambition to propose a plan how to solve the problem between Israel and Palestinians. I do not believe it will work, but at least this Warsaw Conference will start, let's hope, a kind of Warsaw process, like in the past we had Organization for Conference for Security in Europe in 1975, started in Helsinki, which started the process of normalization and stabilization of the situation in Europe. So let's hope this conference will launch, will activate this positive spirit of change. And this is issue number one. And of course, issue number two will be how to maybe renegotiate the agreement with Iran. President Donald Trump does not want to crush it. He said, I want to renegotiate this agreement in order to make Iran comply with what has been already done, and also to stop this ballistic missile program, which has not been addressed in this nuclear deal signed in Vienna in 2015.
Accidentally, all this is happening in February 2019, 40 years ago. The Islamic Revolution took power in Iran, causing major immigration from the country and a turn in the policy of the Iran, because before it was a country that was in alliance with United States, Israel and Turkey.
Remember that this government in Iran, in Tehran, is a very ideological Islamic government, and it's a difficult partner. We should worry that, for example, a few months ago, when they were testing one of many ballistic missiles in Iran, and when they were parading this missile on the streets of Tehran, they put a sign on this missile. This is a missile which will wipe off Israel from the face of the earth. So those threatening words should worry all of us in international community. That's why all meetings which could help to some extent solve those problems should be very welcome, and we should be happy that Warsaw is hosting this conference, and over 40 delegations are coming, so it's not a small conference.
And we keep our fingers crossed for positive development.
And success.
Yes, thank you very much. Artur Wróblewski of Warsaw University was our guest, and that was it for tonight's Poland Daily Business.
Good evening, I'm Karolina Łukaszewicz and welcome again to Poland Daily Weather. Tomorrow in Poland, we are expecting quite high temperatures, 7 degrees, around Wrocław, also in Bydgoszcz, Zielona Góra, as well as in Szczecin, and we are expecting quite a bit of rain tomorrow, 5 degrees in central Poland with rain and sun as well, and 5 degrees in Krakow, 6 degrees in the northern parts of the country, also in Poznań. And now let's check the forecast in Europe for tomorrow. So if we're spending Valentine's Day in Paris, we will be quite lucky because there will be 10 degrees with a lot of sun. Also in Brno, 10 degrees, 9 degrees in Vienna, 11 in Zagreb, and 14 degrees in Madrid, Spain, 19 in Lisbon, Portugal. So quite a sunny day tomorrow for Valentine's Day. This is all for tonight. Thank you and see you soon.
Opera was brought to Poland just 30 years after it first appeared in Florence by Royal Prince Ladislaus IV Vasa. In 1628, he invited the first Italian opera troupe to Warsaw. For over 170 years, the Grand Theatre has been Poland's leading opera and ballet theatre. It was built between 1825 and 1833 and designed by the Italian architect Antonio Corazzi of Livorno. The building was converted several times. It was bombed during the Siege of Warsaw in 1939 and almost completely ruined. Only the original classicist facade survived. In 1945 to 1965, the company performed on other stages while the theater building was being restored and expanded according to designs by Bogdan Górniewski. The Polish National Opera at the Grand Theatre continues its more than 200-year tradition, producing works by Polish composers as well as world classics. The Teatr Wielki has a main stage in the Moniuszko Auditorium, which seats 1,828, and a small stage in the Muniarski Auditorium, seating 248. The former ballrooms on the first floor house Poland's only theater museum. The former ballrooms, known as Redytowe rooms, are on the first floor and house Poland's only theater museum. In 2002, the Grand Theatre's facade was crowned with a magnificent sculpture of Apollo's Quadriga, as originally envisaged by architect Antonio Corazzi 180 years earlier. The current sculpture is a contemporary design by Adam Mijak and Antoni J. Pastwa. From 1998 to 2002, and then again from October 2008, the general director of the Grand Theatre has been the great culture manager Waldemar Dąbrowski, who was Poland's Minister of Culture from 2002 to 2005. The Polish National Opera's artistic director is the outstanding stage director Mariusz Treliński, who first occupied the post in the 2005-2006 season and was reappointed in October 2008. His opera productions constitute highlights of the operatic repertoire not only in Warsaw, but also in Washington, Los Angeles, St. Petersburg, Tel Aviv, Vilnius, and Bratislava.
I'm here with Miss Karolina Łukaszewicz, a tour guide here at Opera Narodowe at the Grand Theatre. Welcome to Poland Daily Culture.
Hello.
Well, I wanted to ask you maybe something a little bit about your own background and how it is that you came to work here.
Well, actually, I came here as a volunteer and I spent about 2 years here being a volunteer. Then I got a job and now here I am. I think it's a quite magical place.
Mm-hmm. And what is your connection to this place?
I think theater is one of the best places I could be working at, and it has a great story. It's a very interesting place, so that's why I became a tour guide to tell people about this place.
What is your own sort of background? What sort of draw you to the theatre?
Actually, nothing special. I'm connected with journalism. I'm studying journalism, so I'm not connected with the theatre. However, ballet and opera are so incredible that I decided to come here.
Okay, so could you tell us what it is that makes the Grand Theatre so special?
First of all, this is the biggest opera stage in Europe, second the biggest one in the world. It's very, very interesting to see the stage. It consists of several parts, the stage proper, backstage, and 4 side docks. It is so huge that it could contain, for example, the whole opera La Scala, Italian La Scala building, the whole building. Or, for example, the block of flats with about 10-11 floors. It's so huge.
Yes, it is. So, the building itself, as I understand it, is about 200 years old.
Yes.
But sadly, it was destroyed during the Second World War.
Yes, everything started in 1925 when there was a decision to start building our theater. Unfortunately, it was demolished during the Second World War and fortunately rebuilt after the war. It was reopened in 1965. And now you can see, for example, the auditorium with 1,700 seats. So it's a quite big auditorium.
Yes, certainly is. So could you tell us something a little about this auditorium so we can get an idea about it and how it compares perhaps to others?
Yes, first of all, the first project of our theater was a design by Italian architect Antonio Corazzi. And then after the war, there was a design of Polish architect Bogdan Górniewski. The interesting thing about our auditorium is the ceiling, which reminds us a man's first flight to the moon. That's why it looks like the moon. Yes, because the first flight to the moon was in 1961 and our theater was reopened in 1965, so 4 years later.
Okay, I see. And just a sort of another question in connection with the architecture. I understand that the ceiling is quite a unique feature. Could you tell us about that?
Yes, exactly. That was the ceiling. The ceiling looks like a moon. If you are in the auditorium, you can see our ceiling looking like a moon.
Verlacht ihren Zorn, und Gott, der Herr, wird ihrer spotten.
The different institutions that operate within this building, because I understand, you know, perhaps the immediate association is with the opera itself, but I understand there's quite a few institutions that operate here.
Yes, exactly. Our building is very big and it's home for 5 institutions. First of all, it's Polish National Ballet and National Opera, then Gallery Opera, which is in our theater, Grand Theater. So we have 3 institutions. The 4th is the National Theater. And the last one is the Theater Museum. So I believe that that's the only theater museum in Europe, so it's a unique place.
Okay. And what is contained within the museum itself?
The Theater Museum tells a story about the theater itself. And you can also visit a gallery, opera gallery in our theater. Grand Theater, and we have some exhibitions every season there.
And what's the exhibition at the moment?
Right now, exhibition about Stanisław Moniuszko.
Ah, super.
Yes.
Okay, so maybe you could just finish up by telling us a little something about the tours themselves and what's involved in the tours.
Well, you can take part in a tour every day from Monday to Friday, and you can see not only this place, which is free for everyone who has a ticket in the evening. You can also see a backstage and workshops, so you can visit every place in the theater. It's very interesting because we have almost 20 workshops and even restaurants, hotel rooms. You can see many interesting places here.
Ms. Karolina Łukaszewicz, thank you very much for joining us here at Poland Daily Culture.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Poland Daily History. Today we are standing in front of the Potocki family palace to learn more about the Polish aristocracy. They are the most independent and most prosperous branch of the noble class in all of Europe. However, after 1945, following the beginning of the Soviet communist regime, they were heavily persecuted. Today we will dig more into the details and intricacies of the Polish aristocracy. The Potocki family palace now houses the Polish Ministry of Culture, but Count Marek Potocki was kind enough to invite us to his private apartment where we uncover more about the history of his family and learn how the position of Polish aristocracy shifted over the centuries. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Poland Daily History. Today we have an exclusive interview with Count Potocki, a member of one of the most famous Polish noble families. Sir, so can you walk us through the history of your specific family? What are the origins? And fill us in with a little bit of stories.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Marek Potocki. I'm 80 years old. And as you were kind enough to say, we are an old Polish family. We started at the beginning of the 12th century. And rather rapidly, from a rather poor and unknown Polish family originating from central Poland, we became rich and famous because we fought for the king of Poland, for different kings of Poland, and the kings didn't like to pay us in money, they pay us in land. And this is how we became rather rapidly wealthy. It started, as I said, in the 13th century. And over the centuries, we became well known for our military abilities. We were good soldiers, we were probably physically strong and courageous, and this is how we became well known. I would say, without exaggerating, that by the end of the 15th century, around 1490, 1500, we were among the most, the richest Polish families, not best known, but these best known families, meanwhile, died out. So by the 17th, 18th, 19th century, we became one of the leading families of Poland. And I am its last representative, because as you know, in 1945, locomotive of history started with the Russian Revolution and ended up with the end of the Second World War, changed everything in this country. And from the very top, we became the very bottom. And this is how it went.
So as I know, you have seen through like the times of partitions, and like the family has been through all the tides of events during Polish history. And how did the family look like throughout the times?
Before the partitions, which started at the end of the 18th century, we had quite a number of what we call in Polish hetman. Hetman in Polish means the boss of the Polish army. There were two hetmans, either of the crown, the top guy, or of the field, the second guy. And we had 5 or 7 of them, 6 or 7 of them in the history of the country, which is quite a lot. The other families were like Radzyvils or Czartoryskis or Lubomirski, or families of that type. And throughout from the very beginning to the, I would say, 1939, we remain very wealthy in land, because we had land, especially in the east of Poland. And this is why in the books of history, in the Polish dictionary of Polish famous personalities, we have quite a number of people who are mentioned and described there.
Is there a specific area of origins that your family is from, like a stronghold, center?
Yes, there is. In central Poland, there's a little town, a village called Jędrzejów, which comes from the word Jędrzej, which is an old Polish form of saying Andrew. And we had a little property called Potok, which in Polish means stream,
Okay.
you know, a little river.
Yeah.
And we come from there. And as I said, we are known, our name was written in the church books around 1140, 1150 for the first time. And this is how we started. And we are originating from that place. But very rapidly, since we became professional soldiers and we were paid in land, we very rapidly settled in eastern Poland, which in the 16th, 17th, 18th century went east very, very far away, very far away. And we had enormous lands. At a certain time, we had, as a family, over 1 million of hectares of land, of good land, which was a very large piece of property.
Wow.
We built villages, we built towns, we built roads, we built bridges, because at that time, in the 16th century, 17th century, 18th century, it stopped. Poland, which had the common border with Turkey, because Poland went up to the Black Sea.
Yeah.
The kings of Poland will give the land to families like ours, but they will say, populate this country, build towns, villages to defend the countryside from the Tatars and the Turks. And we did.
Right.
And we did.
The Potocki family was one of the largest landholders in the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. With time, their center of gravity shifted eastward. In time, they also established a presence in Odessa and built a summer house in Crimea. Centuries later, the Livadia Palace became famous as the place which hosted the Yalta Conference, during which Churchill and Roosevelt agreed to hand over Poland to the mercy of the Soviet Union. You mentioned that the family reaches really far east, and I was wondering, how far did it push? Like, what's the farthest extent it went to?
It was very far away, because you certainly heard of a large town called Odessa. It's a port at the Black Sea. We had a property there, and I tell you an interesting story. We had what the Russians called a dacha, which is a country place. And the dacha was built in Yalta, which is a place well known for the 1945 political conference between Churchill, Roosevelt, and Stalin.
Yeah.
And around 1810 or 1815, the local Russian governor of a very great Russian family called Vorontsov told my ancestor, Severin Potocki, Count Potocki, sell me your dacha. A Pole could not refuse a Russian high-ranked officer asking for something.
Yeah.
But the difference with the communists was that at that time, the Russians will pay. And my ancestor was well paid for his property. I'm telling you the story because this property was then held by the Vorontsov family for a few generations. And at the end of the 19th century, the Tsar of Russia, Alexander III, told one of the Vorontsovs, Vorontsov, sell me your dacha, which was not a dacha at that time, became a palace built out by the Vorontsov family. And the Vorontsov couldn't say no to the Tsar. And the Tsar bought it, embellished, made a big property out of it. And in 1945, in our humble dacha, increased by the Vorontsovs and by the Tsar of Russia, the big, well-known throughout the world political conference between Stalin, Roosevelt, and Churchill took place in 1945. And if you go there, the guide will tell you that the property started with the Potocki family.
Oh. So during the time, I believe that the Potocki family is not the only nobles around. And you mentioned that you guys started in the central Poland and pressed on to the east. I was wondering if you ever came across other nobilities, and what are the relations between the noble families are like?
I like your question. We acted in two directions. One direction is that we would marry wealthy families, young girls, in order to join the properties and became even wealthier. We got very many properties via the marriages, you know. Some of them were gigantic. The other way was, as you asked the question, was to become friendly with the local smaller nobility. And here I have to beat my breast and say sorry, because very many of these local gentry were of Ruthenian, which is the old Polish word for Ukrainian nobility.
Right.
They were not wealthy, but they were noble families.
Right.
And very stupidly in Poland, especially the Catholic Church and also the king would force the local Ukrainians to become Catholic. Some of them became Catholic, but some of them remained Orthodox.
Right.
And this was a major political drama for Poland and a major political error, in my opinion, because it pushed the local Ukrainians towards Moscow, towards the Russians,
Right.
Especially in the 17th century. And this is how we became so enemies between Poland and Russia because of the Ukraine, because both Russia wanted Ukraine and Poland wanted Ukraine.
Right.
But the Ukrainians were Orthodox. Poland was Catholic.
Yes.
And this was the main problem.
So like the forced conversion kind of pushed some people to the other side.
Today religion is not as important, but at that time,
right.
the
Plays a
religion
really
was very,
significant
very
role.
important.
The Polish nobles used to form the backbones of Polish society. The Potocki family was one of the most prominent and especially influential within the military. Count Potocki has given us today a very interesting snapshot of Polish history. That's it for today. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. I'll see you next time on Poland Daily History.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Poland Daily Travel, where in the next series of episodes, we'll be traveling along the Royal Route. That's right, the Tract Królewski in beautiful Warsaw. We'll be starting in the historic Old Town at the Cathedral of St. John. Then I'll be walking and talking with my friend Artur Górniewski as we proceed south along Krakowskie Przedmieście to the center of the city. You'll get to know the landmarks and historical places of interest that are most essential along the Royal Route. So stay with us. You won't find anything this comprehensive anywhere else. Poland Daily Travel walks and talks along the Royal Route. Hi. We're here with Poland Daily Travel in front of the cathedral in Warsaw. This is one of the most important churches in Poland, along with Częstochowa Church and the church in Krakow, St. Mary's. We're going to go inside and meet a friend of mine called Artur. And Artur is going to explain to us exactly what the history is here. So let's go in and meet him. Okay? Let's go. Hi, it's Poland Daily Travel, and we're back in the cathedral in the Old Town in Warsaw. I'm here with Artur, and we're going to talk about the Constitutional Memorial, this rather grand classical sculpture behind us. What's it all about, Artur? Why is it here?
Constitution of Poland, first European constitution, the second constitution in the world after US, is presented in here in ancient Roman style when we take a closer look at the sculpture. It presents on the top Mr. Małachowski, so the leader of a 4 years meeting during which we decided about the form and the idea of our constitution. So going back to the topic that we were talking over before. When there are candidates, there are promises. So the kings were elected in a democratic way. So the more kings were elected, the more powers were given to Polish aristocracy. And that's why at some point there was no king who had power in his hands, but the aristocracy and magnate families. They had to cut it, they had to change it. And finally they did it in 1791, 3rd of May. This is when we adopted our constitution.
3rd of May Constitution, 1791?
Correct.
91, okay.
That's the famous moment in Polish history that we do celebrate till nowadays by 3rd of May, which is a day when we don't work simply. So it's our national celebration on that day. The sculpture in here appears in 1831. So after 40 more years, we have many more important history situations happening in here. And that's why the sculpture is also equipped with them. In the meantime, Poland lost the independence to Russia, Prussia and Austria, three neighborhood countries, annexed Poland because of the fact that it was becoming too modern, and that was a convenient moment to make three countries make a deal, and we lost the independence. And that's why when we take a closer...
They annexed Poland and split it, cut it up between themselves.
Annexed, exactly. 64% annexed by Russia, and then the rest by Prussia and Austrian Empire. We lost the independence for 123 years. 5 generations. Let's think about it. 5 generations. So if you are born right before World War I, so right before the moment when we got back our independence, then these were not your parents, not grandparents, but great or great-great-grandparents of yours who were living in an independent country of yours. So what do we know exactly about our great-great-grandparents? How is it possible that Polish culture survived, that Polish identity survived, thanks to mothers and fathers of Polish independence? Some of them we've talked about, some of them we will. And also important commemorations like we are having in here. This one appeared in this cathedral, particularly in 1831, so after the November uprising, after the moment when Frederick Chopin had to leave the country, after the moment when more retaliations were appearing in here, especially by the Russian Empire. And that was a moment, hey, we remember. Henryk Marconi designs this sculpture. Henryk Marconi soon will design Europejski Hotel in 1855 that we will visit today. And this sculpture was made in Rome. It was transported in here. It was supposed to be located in the Holy Cross Church, where Frederick Chopin heart is buried nowadays. But eventually, because of its size, huge, it was put right in here in this cathedral. Even though the place was destroyed during World War II, we are having original elements in here, and even though the church was destroyed and reconstructed once again, we are having these spacious areas in here, so to keep such important memorials.
I wanted to ask Arthur about some of these details right here that we're looking at. Arthur, what is this symbolizing? Why is it important?
We are having a flag of Poland that consists of an eagle that represents Poland originally as the symbol of our first tribes that developed our country 1,000 years ago. We are having a symbol of Lithuania, a rider, creating together the Commonwealth. In the central section of the flag, every single time there was a symbol of the king currently elected. So that's a symbol of his family. And when we see a bull in here, we know that we refer to Poniatowski family. Poniatowski was the last king of Poland. So this is how the last flag of the Commonwealth was looking like. But we are having a very sad metaphor in here. We are having our flag covered by a curtain, like in a theater when a curtain ends the show. So even though we are looking at the glorious moment of Polish history, the moment when we adopted our constitution in 1791, we learned something in here. We learned that we did it too late. We adopted our constitution, we cancelled the law of liberum veto, Polish aristocracy. If there was one man who stood up during the parliament session and said liberum veto, I disagree, then they couldn't adopt this particular law anymore in the future. We adopted this law so to not allow any kind of
well, not to allow anyone to get too much power. Anyone to get too much power. You didn't want a king with too much power. The British had Magna Carta, and you had a different style in Poland, the liberum veto, which said, you know, as you said, you stand up, say, I disagree, and that stops the law or the motion going through, right?
We did it in case of corruption, but it turned out that you needed one man to be corrupted, so Poland couldn't develop. We had to cut it. We had to adopt our constitution.
Somebody could just pay the person to veto everything.
Exactly.
So it doesn't really work.
Exactly.
Yeah. You have to, has to be more democratic. That's almost a form of a kind of anarchy, isn't it? I mean, I respect that in a way. I respect it in a way. It's an interesting way of looking at liberty, but it doesn't lead to the best cooperation.
In the name of the good, we couldn't develop, and many bad things were done, so we had to change it. In a very modern way, we adopted our constitution, but it was after the first partition. So the first moment when Polish borders are annexed, 1772. We go on, we understand that we are having a difficult situation, we adopt the constitution 1791, and then a year later, second partition. Austria didn't participate, only Prussia and Russia took a little bit more, and then 1795, after another 3 years, third partition. So in Europe, in a continent where kings and rulers wanted to develop, wanted to grow, wanted to have more and more power, Poland was compared to a big cake that local leaders were taking advantage from, and we are losing the independence. That's why it is very important monument sculptured in here, very sad metaphor, but it was constructed already in a moment when Poland was not on the maps. So this is something that we already knew, and that's amazing in our history that we were sculpturing such things even in a moment when Poland was not on the maps.
Wow. Stay with us, Poland Daily Travel. We're on the royal route